Strong Conversations.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Strong Conversations, Hot Takes from a Cultural Firebrand. It's been a minute, and one day I'll be able to tell y'all why. But until then, I am back, and I could not be more excited. I have a great show lined up for you all today with amazing people. So, enough about me, enough about everything that's going on, but just know that I am here, I am back, and I promise not to leave y'all again. So, with that being said, I am going to bring our amazing guests in the room. And as you all know, the people that come on this show are the you experts. So, I don't do a lot of bio reading. So, I'm just going to bring them in and allow them to tell you about themselves. So, let's do that. Hello.
Hey.
Hey. So we have Dr. River Sturdivant and the Tamara Winfrey Harris for today's show about heal yourself, creating safe spaces for self-care. So the Tamara Winfrey Harris, let's start with you. Who are you and how are you?
I'm okay. I am a writer, speaker, and women's advocate. I specialize in the intersection of race and gender and telling the stories of Black women and girls. I'm the author of 3 books, The Sisters Are All Right, Changing the Broken Narrative of Black Women in America, Dear Black Girl, Letters from Your Sisters on Stepping into Your Power, and the forthcoming A Black Women's Guide to Getting Free, which is due in July of this year. I am also a registered yoga teacher and Reiki master and a Dr. Carolyn Strong fan.
Oh, well, thank you. Dr. River Sturdivant, who are you and how are you?
Oh, I am well and blessed and all the good things. Who am I? Well, I am I'm a Detroit native. I live here in Naptown. I have lots of ups and downs and journeys of, dealing with chronically suppressed emotions, lots of deep loss, lots of grief, have traveled to 30 countries, love Black women. I've got 2 children. One is 22, one is 15. I've got a doctorate in adult learning and development, Reiki master, yoga teacher, and I work in philanthropy and own Expand Flow Grow Inner Leadership Solutions, where I focus on coaching, workshops, and really growing into the space of retreats where Black women can really think about emotional and mental wholeness. And I like to flow. So that's me.
Well,
Oh, you know what? What we both did not say, we also, River and I, co-founded River and Tamara.
And then there's that.
So we advocate
section,
for and celebrate Black women's healing. So we try to connect Black women with like tools and resources, relationships and experiences that lead to joy and discovery and freedom and authenticity.
Sounds like I need to hang out with y'all more.
We a good time. We a good time.
Yeah, I see. I see. It's worth the 2-hour drive.
Listen, come through now. It's just straight. Come on down, 60.
I'm gonna have to hit the 65 to kick it with y'all. I promise. I'm gonna have to do that. But you all take me right into my first question, because today is all about healing and self-care. And right now, I think that the term itself, self-care, is in a precarious space, right? Because we hear it, we hear it, we hear it, we hear it. And it's almost to the point where we hear it so much that it's going to lose its meaning. So before it does that, I guess the question I want to ask is, how do you all define self-care?
Well, I would say, and I think you're right. I think self-care has become like equity, where everybody knows that they're supposed to say it, but very few people actually know to or want to do it.
And you say that to the DEI person in the room.
I do. For me, I can't wait to hear what River said. I mean, for me, it's just tending to your physical and emotional and spiritual and mental well-being. We tend to understand that other things need to be tended to. We understand that our children need to be tended to, our jobs, our cars, our pets, but we don't think of that for ourselves. I think what that adds up to, so like what that tending to looks like is very personal and unique to each of us. But you should not confuse self-care with self-maintenance or consumerism, because it's not.
What does that mean?
So it doesn't mean, things like self-maintenance, like I got my hair done today, or I got my nails done today. No, they can be self-care, but they are not necessarily self-care and take the place of self-care. And you can tend to your well-being without spending a dime. So it is not necessarily, as a lot of people say, well, I got to make time for a spa or a vacation or a mani-pedi, or that's not real. That's not the core of what self-care is, because self-care is something you got to do. You have to live and do every day. It's not a special occasion necessarily where you have to spend a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I echo all of that, and I think that it's like, to build on just the point that Tammy's making about it's an everyday thing, like it's a practice, right? Like I really do think whether it's a yoga practice, or meaning not whether you need to do yoga, but how yoga is a practice. It's not just like, oh, you just mastered it. But I think of wholeness when I think of self-care, and and for me to know, like, what is it that I need emotionally, mentally, these different parts of me, so that I can feel whole. Like legit, me sitting on this floor right now is a self-care practice for myself. It was a full day. I'm running, lots of adulting, woo. And I'm like, okay, you know what? This is gonna make me feel, centered, grounded. And so I think of wholeness.
Okay. Well, I thank you for that. Now, to follow that up, we're talking about self-care in general. And because of the spaces that you all are in, and because of the work that we all do collectively, we know for a fact that this is not usually something that Black women prioritize. So knowing that and realizing that and doing your part to do something about that in establishing what you've established, why do you think we tend not to prioritize self-care?
Well, I think the first thing we have to say is River and I are not experts. Partly the reason we know that, Black women are often not good at prioritizing self-care is because we're two Black women that are not good at prioritizing self-care. I mean, we care for ourselves imperfectly.
Make it 3.
My 3, Carolyn, my husband was diagnosed with early onset dementia last year. So I'm a caregiver. At the same time, I took on a high responsibility, high stress new job and a new board chair position. And I decided to write a book. And there are countless ways that I have not taken care of myself this year. Just one that I was able to identify at the end of this year. River and I did a workshop, and we were kind of talking about this. And I realized at the end of the year that I was allowing at work people to fill up my calendar, so that I spent, all days sitting in meetings and meeting with people and fulfilling what they needed of me, which then pushed the work that I actually had to do then I had to do work after hours or on weekends, which was adding to my stress. So I just want the people who are listening to first know, before we answer that question, is that we know, because we know, and we know that it doesn't have to be that way. And we know that, like every Black woman, like, we deserve grace, despite the old tapes that might play in my head or in River's head. And because I am, all about Black women's liberation, and I know we can't be free if we're mentally and physically broken. We're both fortunate to have some like useful framing and tools that have helped us be better. And, our goal is just to share that with everyone who is listening. So with that, so I don't keep going on and on, I'm gonna let River actually answer the question first, and then I'll come back. I just had to get that out.
Now, could you repeat the question, please, Dr. Carolyn? No, I'm just playing.
Sure. I mean, sure.
I'm just joking. I think Black women, we tend to not prioritize self-care because we've been systematically trained not to. Like, it's just not in our DNA to do it. Like, it is a actual rewiring in our brains that actually have to happen. Like, the neural synapses have to, like, gotta find different pathways to make this thing over here feel normal. Because, meaning self-care, wholeness, healing, because what feels normal is to tend after others and prioritize others as to work and to work and to do and to do. And so it's just literally not in our DNA. And so, and I have a whole thing, I'm all about emotional intelligence in so many ways and for so many reasons. And I think, like, all of that is also built on us suppressing our emotions. Like, we can't feel our stuff and continue to not prioritize. There's a lot of double negatives and stuff like that. But hopefully you got a real flexible audience. But
I love my audience. They got you.
That's what's up. But so I think it's our training. I think it's our DNA. It's generational, and we're not taught and we're not invited, and we don't have spaces that allow for us to really feel and express our emotions. And it just causes that to, there's a cycle there.
River, as usual, is right. And I think it's smart to point out that, this is, when we say it's not in our DNA, that's because it's the idea that we shouldn't take care of ourselves is generations and centuries in the making, because a lot of it goes back to the way
why we're here.
Why we're here. I mean, the ways we were brought to this country and the lies that had to be told to justify our enslavement, especially the two, the idea of the strong Black woman that kind of comes out of the idea of the sapphire, that we're just hard and hardy and we can take anything and we can take the blow and keep going. And, also this idea of the mammy, where we are built for servitude and we don't have our own needs and our own desires, that we exist for the service of others. And that's not just a lie that was told by majority culture to justify our enslavement and marginalization. You can't grow up in this environment, even as a Black person, and not absorb some of that belonging. So it has gotten absorbed into our culture. And, there are whole songs. I can't tell you how much I hate that song, Sadie, by, was it the Spinners? I mean, just to be a Black woman, it's like you got to be husbands on the brandy, and sometimes mama would cry. Like, that is the lie. Like, I was actually on a radio program once where some man called in and said, that's the problem with you Black women today. My mother, he then, told this long story about his mother and the raising, like it was just, it felt like torture. But that is how people view our place in life. And sometimes it can make that be how we view our place in life and what we're good for and what we're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was definitely a word. And I would just add to that. But well, before I add to that, I do
Mhm.
want to say that if any of our viewers have comments, please feel free to comment. We can see them and we can answer them. Um, but I also want to add kind of to your larger point is that not only are we taught to be in servitude, we're taught to put everyone before ourselves. It's not just our immediate family, it's not just the significant other and the kids, it's literally everyone. When you go to work, it's
Mhm.
everything there. If you see somebody on the street in need, it's them too. It's literally everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely kind of takes a toll on what it is that you think you can ask for.
Right.
And that goes into my next question, which is what do you think some of the consequences of not prioritizing self care are as I sit here with a hurt neck? But go ahead.
Well, you know what? I think that, like, so what you just said, Dr. Strong, about I think there's an element of self care that is in that space in between the what we've been taught and then the choice that we make. Like, so I can be
Mhm.
taught some things, and once I've made conscious, I also have a little bit of agency, right, to make a different choice. So
Mhm.
if I do show up to work, and it's hard as hell, right? I mean, it's real hard to, like, again, reprogram. But for me, part of self-care is like, I I don't have to be her mammy at work.
Mhm.
I can, like, so one of the consequences then, as I see it, right, is like, okay, well, me prioritizing self-care and wholeness is consciously choosing not to solve all the problem, stay to work till
Mhm.
8 o'clock, or whatever those things are, what they might look like. Because when I don't, then I'm resentful and I'm bitter and I'm all those things. And I don't even actually acknowledge those emotions that are coming up because I still got to suppress them. And then now I probably got breast cancer. I mean, I'm just not saying, don't quote me, nobody. I didn't say that lead directly.
Mhm.
But I probably got an ulcer, or maybe I got a headache that I don't know why, or these other things. But
And usually in those situations, I just quote the Godfather and say, when the mind suffers, the body cries out.
And that's not true. Not
it's
to,
okay. That's the theme.
anyway,
Negative it.
I recommend everybody read the book Weathering by Dr. Arlene Geronimus
Mm.
because she is one of the researchers that have done so much work on how marginalization affects the body.
Spell that
And she
last name.
ties that to GERONIMIUS.
You learned to
So
spell these at school, didn't you, Tammy?
Didn't she?
I didn't. I actually did.
Okay, never
I
mind.
did, and
And
I
I
couldn't
won't
spell
even I won't
Geronimus.
even tell you the word that took me out in the third grade because it's. But anyway, um, I so drawing the link between marginalization and medical outcomes. So infant and maternal mortality. I mean, everybody knows Black women, our rates of infant maternal mortality are high. And what research has shown is just existing in racism, sexism, all of those things has a long weathering effect on the body. And it's not just true of Black people, it's true of immigrants, it's true of Appalachians, but it does. But you were right, River. It can eventually end up in poor health outcomes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One of the things I was going to say is, in addition to that, I mean, there are also lots of lifestyle diseases that disproportionately affect Black women. The diabetes and the high blood pressure and the all of those things, the depression, all of those things sometimes can be mitigated by self-care that we rarely get.
Mm-hmm.
um, and I think that the other outcome that River and I talk about a lot, because we are both yogis, and so, everyone might not be familiar with this, but there's this thing called the yamas and niyamas. It's kind of the, I don't know, moral code of yogis. It's the thing that kind of tells you the what to do and what not to do. But one of the most important one is called ahimsa in Sanskrit, or nonviolence, and so it means not harming living beings by your actions or your words or your thoughts. It's a reminder to lead with love in all things. Which is not easy when dealing with other beings, but it's really difficult when it comes to ourselves. And, we had a conversation, River and I, about whether we should actually call inattention to self-care when we're talking to Black women violence. Like, is that too much? And are people going to say, wait, what are you talking about? But, if you look at the definition of violence, which is like behavior that hurts, damages, or kills someone or something, then not taking care of yourself is not benign. It is violence. So if you're a Black woman and you're not taking your medication, if you're not seeing a therapist when you're in mental distress, if you're going all day and you're not eating because you're busy, if you're not getting enough sleep, that's violence. Not getting enough sleep, actually a form of torture. Like, all of those things, are violence. And I think that's a result of not,
And that's definitely something that I'm going to have to sit with now, because violence does feel harsh, because violence is one of those things that feels very intentional. But we know that for a lot of us, this behavior is unintentional. Right. So that's where that kind of conundrum comes in. But I do kind of want to talk about, I did just want to throw another piece of the bibliography out there, which is Too Heavy a Yoke, Black Woman and the Burden of Strength by Dr. Shaniqua Walker Barnes, which breaks all of this down. And she talks about a lot of the particularly heart problems that we're seeing in Black women, and a lot of this, what she calls network stress, that comes with being a caregiver, is showing up in those spaces. So when we see when we drive through certain communities and we see the dialysis center is the new Spirit Halloween.
Hello.
And it's the new Spirit Halloween because, like somebody said before, there are lifestyle choices, but by that same token, there are also other things that go along with that. And one of those things is that network stress is killing us.
Yeah. And so absolutely lifestyle choices. And there are probably many things that are happening that will then guide someone to make whatever lifestyle choice that we usually more directly correlate to then whatever's manifested. So if I'm feeling a great deal of stress, I'm feeling a great deal of, we like to say stress and overwhelm as sort of those buckets, right? But there's so much underneath the hood of those. So if I'm not allowing myself to feel the depression or the anxiety or the the frustration or the anger or the resentment or whatever those things are, then I'm just pushing them down and they go somewhere. They don't just disappear. And, fun fact, 6 seconds. So there is about 6 seconds that occurs from when there's some stimuli of some sort, I don't know, you read a text message, somebody rings your doorbell, you get you get a notification of anything. I don't know, somebody breaks into your house. From when the stimuli happens and your body recreates all of the chemicals that creates the emotion. Now, when that happens over and over and over again, and we don't address all of those actual chemical things that are happening, which are guideposts, or they're like, this is data from our bodies to our bodies about ourselves. And then we don't consider any of it. So then we don't pay attention. We don't look, and it is violence, because you know what? Now, this ain't a show on whether to whoop or not to whoop. But when you didn't get whooped back in the day.
Before you start, the opinions expressed on Strong Conversations.
But I did see a reel the other day. And so, but when you did get whooped, and it was like, shut up before I give you something to cry about, right? Or ain't nothing wrong with you. And so we got trained to not express entity. And so then it's like, all right, so now, and there's violence in that when we do it to ourselves of like, I'm not worthy of investigating and sitting with and exploring whatever is there. So yeah, ahimsa and non-violence, and being able to name the different emotions. I always like to say, if we can't name it, we can't navigate it. So if I don't call that thing
Big facts.
a thing,
Right.
you just don't act like it ain't there.
And I wanted to point this out, DEI master, Dr. Strong, because you mentioned that, you had to sit with violence because you think of violence as being intentional, and a lot of our lack of self-care is not intentional. What do we learn in DEI about the racism and whether or not like it matters whether like it was intentional or not? Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Well, you will be just as dead whether or not your inattention was subconscious.
We spend a whole section on intent versus impact, and you are absolutely correct. Intent doesn't matter. Nobody's going to wheel you into the cardiac unit and say, well, this wasn't stress related, so get off thy bed and walk. Like, I hear you. I just
and I know that's one of the reasons why we were like, should we say this? But we ultimately landed on call a thing a thing.
Call a thing a thing.
And that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
And reframe it, because even for me, once we landed there, it helped me, if you want to ask sometimes it's like, do I have time to do this thing? Do I have time to meditate? Do I have time to breathe? Do I have time to eat? And you want to say, no, I don't, I'm just not going to do it. But you can reframe that as, am I going to do violence to myself right now? That's another discussion.
But when you say it out loud, it sounds ridiculous, but we've all done it. Like, what do you mean, do you have time to breathe? What do you mean, do you have time to eat? And when you verbalize it, it sounds like it sounds ridiculous, but we've all been guilty of it. Like, I have friends that call me on a daily basis, and the first words out of their mouth are, did you eat today? Because they know that once I'm involved in a thing, that may or may not happen.
It's a wrap. It's a whole wrap. I mean, was like, oh no, go ahead, Tam.
No. I was just going to say, but you see how that works? Because if Darling Puda, who I know is probably there in the corner, your daughter, if she were to tell you she was hungry, or just, she wouldn't even have to tell you she was hungry. You would never start at 8:00 and just say, we busy, you're not eating today until I get around. You would never do that, ever. Never. But you would do it to yourself.
I wouldn't even do it to the grown one.
Nope. But you do it to yourself.
Yeah. No, it was just a yes and amen to that. 'Cause there was a long stretch of time where I'm like, I was going to bed 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, waking with the laptop in my bed, like literally falling asleep, fingers on keyboard, waking up at 5 or 6, and just continuing to go, teaching, working, consulting for all the things. Kids were fed on whatever, Grubhub. I wouldn't even eat. I'd be ordering food for them. Like, we won't even talk about how much money I spent on all that. But it was just like, after a while, I was like, oh, and then I literally fell out on the floor. Like, literally one day, I'm like, with all the things that just, I was like, oh, okay, all right, okay, flag on the play. And you're right. I wouldn't, I made sure they ate. I didn't eat. I'm not gonna have them taking 2 or 3 hour naps every night for a few years. Because why? I was avoiding grief. I was avoiding dealing with so much just like shame and guilt and fear and all the things that came along with my son's disability and working and my father dying, all the stuff. So there's a lot. And, to your earlier point, Tammy, I think the most crucial self-care that Black women can do is absolutely free, and is to tend to the space within, because that'll guard everything. Because you know what? Everybody can Google the 10 best things to do for self-care for 2024. We all know the things to do. It's like, what's going on in our minds and in our hearts and in our emotional selves that prevent us from doing that. And that's inner work. That's
Mhm.
that, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to drive up for y'all's next workshop because y'all are speaking to me right now in ways that I needed to be spoken to. So I think this was as much for me as it was for the audience at large today, and for that I do thank you. But my next question is, speaking of that, is what is next for you all individually, and what's next for you all together?
I was
Look at us. We just all for me, starting towards the end of next month, we'll start a expansion journey, really, as part group coaching, as part class, but really to dive into our emotional spaces and really thinking about, what is it that I need to allow me to move forward with whatever goals everybody set for 2024. And a lot of times some of that inner work. So we'll look at patterns, be able to identify, those spaces within your emotional intelligence vortex that you can really leverage and be able to strengthen, and to think about what practices. So that'll be a 4-week journey. And then after that, I'll be accepting new coaching clients. So more to come on that.
Okay.
So next for me is A Black Woman's Guide to Getting Free, which is now available for pre-order. That will be out in July.
And in the comments as we speak.
We will probably, River and I are going to do a very cool in-person summer event around the book. So look out for me. Hopefully I'll be coming to a city near you with the book tour.
Okay.
Can I just say something?
You absolutely
for
can.
Your listeners. 2 things. One, that I just want to underscore, because I know a lot of your listeners are educators, and a lot of the people that I love the most in my life are educators. And I know it has gotten exponentially harder, especially in the last few years, to be in the classroom. And I think this conversation is extra important for all of you. So do not think, I think there's this attitude that people in certain fields, like River and I are in philanthropy, you're in education, that people who work in not-for-profits and things like that should just be sacrificing our health and well-being, because otherwise, why'd you go into that? Why do you care about your health and well-being or your pay or anything? Because you
should be in it for the income. I mean, you should be in it for the outcome, not the income.
But that is not true. You cannot, if your job is supposed to be one of the most important, and it is, if you're supposed to be learning and nurturing, the generation of tomorrow, you cannot do that if you are broken. So I would just urge anyone who is watching this and who is an educator to really prioritize this, to really think about what it looks like not to do violence to themselves, because you cannot help anyone else if you can't help yourself. And I also would advocate that you all try to surround yourselves with other women who feel the same. Because if you're around other women who are willing to sacrifice themselves and run themselves down, then it starts to feel like that's normal. And it is very helpful to me to know River, who is someone who will, when she prioritizes herself and gets up and will meditate and do things for herself, because that then creates a blueprint and an example for me as another Black woman to do that. So those are 2 things that I just thought was important to say.
I also would add, get yourself a no coach. It's the best thing I ever did. It's not a real job, but I think it should be. I have a person in my life who basically, when I am about to engage in some foolishness that is going to take me further than I need to go at the time, they're like, no is a full sentence, right? Or when I'm in the middle of doing something that I should have said no to, she'll be like, you didn't consult your no coach. And I know why, because you know what your no coach would have said. So yes, I feel like that should be like no coaches should be like a real job, and these people should get paid to show up and just
Right. Now you know better. Now see what
Exactly.
you do over there. You know, so this is not a book, but it's a wonderful resource. If you just got to put it on replay, Toni Jones, Toni Jones, the artist, and her song "No" is Bae, Bae. Is if you don't have a no coach, you can put that song on repeat. "No" is Bae by Toni Jones, and yes.
Carolyn,
Yeah.
we will send to you a link to we did a lovely playlist
Ooh.
for our workshop around Black women visioning wellness. And
Okay.
actually one of the songs is the awesome Toni Jones song. So
Okay.
everyone can vibe out and just remember to take care of themselves while listening.
Well, I appreciate that. I look forward to that. And as soon as I get it, I will definitely post it across platforms. But what I want to do is let people know where they can find you if they want to find you, because you all have decided to grace us with a lovely ending meditation. And I don't want to talk after that. I kind of want to let the show end after that. So I want to just kind of close out prior to that and then let you all do your meditation. So I will say, how do we find you all?
You can find me at TamaraWinfreyHarris.com and at Tamara Winfrey Harris on Instagram. I also dropped that link into our chat.
Oh, I see it. I'm going to put it in the comments right now.
Yeah.
Awesome. And you can find me at Expand Flow Grow _LLC. I know Dr. Strong's going to drop that as well. On Instagram.
As soon as I find it. There you go.
There's a link in bio for all other ways to connect there.
Okay, so I put that Spotify list in the link or in the comments, and I will also post it separately on the page as well. You all have been watching and or listening to Strong Conversations, Hot Takes from a Cultural Firebrand. So I will say, please subscribe so that you all can continue to get this programming on either Facebook or YouTube. And with that being said, I am going to start our lovely meditation music and let you all do what you do. And then you will not hear from me again. Thanks for coming, y'all.
So right now, I invite everyone to eyes or soften them if that's more available to you. Just take a moment to feel all this good sister girl energy. I love to share space with other Black women. So let yourself just breathe in that energy. Maybe you'd like to be next time. You start to forget. You want to release any tension. So release the tension between the eyes. Relaxing your jaw. Let the tongue drop down to the bottom of your mouth. Maybe move your neck around to find a comfortable space. Make sure your shoulders aren't up by your ears and relax. Find just let it go. Conversation that we had with you all to take 3 I invite you all to take 3 deep cleansing breaths together. So with every inhale, we're going to inhale a big juicy inhale, and then we're going to exhale. And with every exhale, again, let the tension leave your body. So together, let's inhale. 3, 2, 1, and exhale. 3, 2, 1. Let's try it again, and feel free if you want to make noise, if you want to open your mouth and exhale loudly, you can do that. Inhale. And exhale. Let it out. One last time. Let's inhale. 2, 3, 4. Fill up your lungs and exhale. 3, 2, 1. And I know Carolyn is going to bring the music back in, but before she does, just want to leave you with one of my favorite prayers that you often hear at the end of yoga class in Sanskrit. It is Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. May all beings be happy, healthy, safe, and free. And that is what we wish.
You've been listening to Strong Conversations, hot takes from a cultural firebrand. Make sure to like our Facebook page at Strong Conversations or follow us on Twitter at Dr. Carolyn Strong. Until next time, have a good one.